Hey everybody, see some people joining in. We're going to give it a couple of minutes before we get started. See some more people joining. I'll probably give it to the 102 mark and then we will go ahead and be on our way. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. So thank you everybody for joining today's webinar, Beyond the Basics, Innovation Solutions in Video Monitoring. My name is Erin Bullard. I am the Director of Partner Relations at Immix. So I manage our technology partners like Speco. So we're very excited to expand on the Video Monitoring 101 webinar that we did back in May, and just continue digging into how to craft a video monitoring solution type of menu of services. So quick housekeeping before we get started. There is a question section. If you have any questions, please go ahead and submit them there. If they're fairly straightforward, we've got some people in the background who will try and answer those as we go. If not, we've got a Q&A at the very end. In the event there's something that we don't get to, we will certainly follow up with an email. There should be a resources section. It may be named materials. So feel free to look in there. There's some videos. And we also have the Video Monitoring 101 on our YouTube channel. So anything that you wanted to go back and look at, you should be able to go back and review that. So we were going to have Daniel from Speco, but we instead have Julian. So Julian, welcome. Thanks for being with me today. I'll let you go ahead and give a quick intro of yourself and your background, and then we can kick things off.
Well, thank you, Erin. Yeah, I appreciate you having me, and I'll be filling in for Daniel, as you mentioned. My name is Julian. I'm glad that you were able to get a pic of me really quick and change it on the fly. So I'm the sales director for Speco, primarily in the Southeast region, but I assist the whole team nationwide whenever needed, mainly dealing with dealers, how our solutions can help them and their customers, and how we partner with companies like Immix so we can offer better solutions, better products, and ideally secure the world, which is kind of our main goal.
Love to hear it. Perfect. So before we kick things off fully, we have a quick poll for our attendees. So we'll start with the question. We can go ahead and launch that poll, get a little bit of feedback. We'll have a few more polls as we go. So we're looking to just see how you currently manage some of the video monitoring needs that your clients may have. We'll give everybody a couple of seconds to vote. Looks like we've got some people already providing the services themselves. A lot of people, all people so far. So that is fantastic. A couple people may be monitored by a provider, external. And then we've got some referrals. Doesn't look like there's a ton who don't have video monitoring needs, but understandably that can depend on the vertical market. So I think we'll go ahead and end the poll there and then continue on. So Just a quick recap. I promise I won't belabor this point, but a little bit of what we covered in the first webinar. We wanted to touch on the value of having professional monitoring, some of the benefits that it provides. We'll expand on that just a little bit. We really want to focus on how Speco and the Immix integration with Speco helps to deliver these different services and the menu that you're able to create with this integration, especially not having to add additional hardware to get up and running. We went through some best practices. Like I mentioned, we're going to expand on the menu of services that you can provide. And along the way, we'll really look at some of the best practices, considerations that you're going to need to take into account, and really how do you craft a successful monitoring solution and how do you do that with Speco. I do think it's important, especially based on the poll that we just took. We've got a varied audience. So if you are working with a third-party monitoring center or if you're doing it in-house, again, you kind of have different things to consider, as well as the cost and the pricing. But first, I do want to expand on this. We've got some different statistics that we pulled. And at the end, Julian's going to go through a demo of Speco's analytics. That is a very popular service, a really easy thing to set up, and something that most customers are probably using and familiar with to some extent. But I think that really feeds into the false alarm issue that we all experience. I'm sure, Julian, you've got customers and partners that you work with who are actively looking to try and get false alarms down.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's definitely an issue that we all experience, and especially in the commercial market, there can be penalties to having false alarms and dispatching police. I'm sure nobody here has ever experienced that. But a couple other things that we wanted to expand on with the benefit side. One of the things that we mentioned in terms of the cost savings were the savings that you can have with insurance premiums by having monitoring services enabled. And it does depend a little bit on the industry perhaps, but it does look like between retail and manufacturing facilities and warehouses, you could be looking at anywhere from 15 to 20% discounts. That's not to say that those don't probably change, but as we're all looking to kind of incentivize people to see the results and incorporate different stakeholders, that is something that I wanted to highlight here. Julian, you mentioned, as we're all here, we are looking to promote safety and security. That is the core business of what we do and prevent crime proactively and deter it. But with Immix, one of the big things that we look to do is have that audit trail readily available. So all of the different services, just bear in mind as we dig into this a little bit deeper, that all of it's going to be packaged together so that it's visible, it's viewable, it's accessible for whether that's police, whether that's your customer, the end user, or the dealer. So you can really see in real time any monitored events that have happened. There's, of course, the convenience piece of this and the safety component when it comes to dispatching law enforcement. There's the rise of AVS-01, having these alarm verification standards where you need a video component and not just a blind or dumb alarm. So again, some easy things to get a foot in the door. And if they do have something in place like on-site security, this is a good alternative to have monitoring solutions that can accomplish a lot of what those officers may be doing, especially in different times of the day, and really makes their position and their role a little bit elevated in what they can provide to a customer. So moving forward, I'm going to let Julian give a little bit of background on Speco and what sets them apart.
Sure. Well, thank you, Erin. I appreciate the intro. And for those of you that are not familiar with Speco yet, well, first of all, shame on our marketing team that's here on the call today. But well, if you haven't had the chance to try out some of our solutions, we are one of the world's largest privately held manufacturers in the security industry. Primarily, we focus on the physical security aspect of video surveillance, but we also do provide access control and audio for a full solution vendor. As I mentioned earlier, our main goal is just to provide customers with products that can protect and secure the world by using the latest technology. As I'm sure most of you here have seen the commercials, whether just watching the Olympics or watching TV, AI is being pushed heavily. And that seems to be the way of the future, where things are going. So on today's presentation, I'm actually gonna provide a little sneak peek onto how today we pin down a suspect that using analytics, and we're able to grab it pretty quick and work with authorities so we can pin them down. But with AI, partnering with Immix, we can provide faster response times, reduce false alarms. And as I mentioned earlier, we're going to give you a video which you'll see. If you're not using analytics, definitely you're missing out, or your customers are not getting the full value of the products.
Yeah, definitely more than motion. It really helps to narrow that down. And I know operators are much happier seeing a bounding box on something coming through versus, just having something that they really can't identify. I'll let you touch on this one as well, both of us together and what we're able to accomplish.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, thank you. So one of the big things is with Speco, we are fully integrated with Immix. So not just compatible. A lot of times you hear the word, "Oh, we're compatible." What does that mean? It's a 50-50. It might work, it might not. So when you're fully integrated, it means that we tested it, we vetted it, they tried it, we tried it, and it works. And one of the big things and the questions we get is, well, how do I make it work? What else do I need? You don't really need anything else. There's no additional hardware needed. All you need is our products and to get in touch with Immix, and they'll get you set up. We have an industry leading warranty, 5 years. And as I'm sure you heard, the product is as good as the warranty. So we provide a 5-year warranty that you can rely on the product safely, that it's just going to work on mission critical situations where you just need it to work. And then no licensing. A lot of times there's a lot of vendors out there that might have something along the lines similar, but there's a lot of licensing fees. And nickel and dime, we as a company don't have any licensing fees. So the analytics, when you buy the hardware, you get it included. And then our accuracy rate on AI, as I mentioned earlier, it is extremely high to reduce false alarms. And then top that off with Immix, it's just a great solution. And we continue our partnership as technology evolves. Both Immix and Speco work together to make sure we can offer the latest products and the latest technologies.
Yeah, I love the idea of no licensing and not having those surprise costs come up. Just things that we have every day, and it's oh my gosh, well, that requires this license. And oh, by the way, that's going to be another $200. So
Yeah.
I do think that's really important to mention, as well as the fact that it's a very robust integration that doesn't require an additional piece of hardware. Once you have Speco in there, it's really just a matter of going through the connection to a monitoring station that is using Immix, and it really gets up and running. So actually, sorry, before I jump ahead, we do have another poll. Wanted to get a little bit more information from you guys in terms of, what you see as some of the fastest growing verticals where video monitoring is, a wanted and desired solution. So far, construction. And if you do select other, if you're able to, or if you can, or you're willing to put it in, I believe, the chat, or put it in as a question, that would be awesome to see. I was only allowed, I think, 5 different answers here, so I tried to touch on some of these. Retail's climbing, no logistics, manufacturing, or financial, which, to be honest, isn't terribly surprising.
Yeah. But you do see construction being the number one. Eh, And I do have a lot of customers that, as you everywhere you go in the U.S., you keep seeing more and more buildings pop up. So I do feel like construction it is big, and it's a market that not a lot of integrators are hitting. But I'm glad the people on the call are.
Absolutely. We can go ahead and end the poll there. But Julian, I was going to mention, I think a lot of that price speaks to some of the popularity of these mobile trailers that are, again, you see them everywhere. I think you can just drive down the street, and I think I see, multiple in every retail shopping center, as well as new construction. You guys have a solution that does that, right?
We do, yeah. So we have a solar solution in a trailer, and I'm sure everybody on this panel has seen it. You go to Walmart, you go to Lowe's, and they have some kind of trailer where you don't necessarily have power, you don't necessarily have internet. We do provide a solution for that using solar technology and 4G. Yes.
Yeah, I think the quick deployment ones, it's really good because it helps to prove value right away. It tends to be a pretty straightforward solution. You know, you're there to solve a problem. You've got a kind of prepackaged, um, solution to plug in and plug and play.
Yeah.
So I totally get it. All right, so digging into the integration itself, quick diagram of really how this works. Speco is that connector between the site and a monitoring center that would be using the Immix platform. So the features that are, really relevant here, especially for our dealers, there's this git config button essentially where it pulls in all of the devices from Speco from that connection. So all of the cameras, associated alarms, any relays or audio devices. And so it really does that auto find and pulls it in without having to do each one individually. So, the speed of getting that set up. Of course, we've got live video. We also have playback. So recorded video that's available, we're able to have an operator in real time go back and view that. They just select the date and time that they're looking to view, and they're able to get that, forensic search functionality. Multi-view, really essentially, there's no limit on the number of cameras that you can view simultaneously, depending on how the station has it set up. And then the operator is able to use the PTZ controls as well as the presets. In terms of the monitoring aspect, we have alarms that come through with attached images. So in terms of the analytics, that's something that is automatically sent. But if you have, let's say, different alarm points, different triggers for those alarms, you can set Speco to have the pre-alarm footage for it. So it doesn't have to be necessarily an alarm directly from the analytics. It could be something else, and then we can have the post-alarm recording available too. So it really just makes it a lot more efficient for those operators that receive an alarm and don't have to then take a lot of action on their end to know exactly what happened. One of the biggest things that is helpful in really elevating your services is the interactive piece, the two-way audio. And, audio transmit pretty straightforward and why it's effective, that you can make a call down. It's a good deterrent. Julian, do you hear a lot of the voice of God from
Yeah,
your
yeah,
customers?
definitely we do. Yeah, we want to hear the big brother. We don't like Big Brother, but at the same time, we do want to be Big Brother and make sure our business is safe. I do hear that quite a bit.
Yeah. But I think the audio received sometimes goes a little unappreciated, I'll say. I think it is helpful if you have maybe a blurry situation or a gray situation where the operator's not entirely sure, person may look moderately distressed, but having a little bit of that listen-in capability, again, be wary of the state that you're in and those different regulations. But that is something that's very helpful and gives operators another layer of context to the situation. And then the relay control is able to, have an output that they are able to trigger. A lot of times that's going to be maybe like a door, maybe they're opening a door, there could be a siren, a strobe. So those types of things, you can also turn lights on, but that relay control does allow operators to have a little bit of um, interaction with parts of the site remotely. And so we're going to go down these different potential services kind of one by one. So um, we will dig in. Like I mentioned, easiest path in is alarm monitoring. A lot of sites already have, maybe a Berg system, and then just adding that video verification component. Julian, how many sites or how many customers and dealers do you see with kind of the strategy of, you've got Berg, but you want to add this, or replacing the Berg with something like analytics?
Yeah, you know what? That's a great question. So we have a large customer that they used to go in and sell alarms, and then the video was the add-on. Oh, maybe would you like cameras for your business? And in today's age, they told me we actually are now leading with cameras because of the analytics, because it's better than alarm. An alarm is just really like a lock on a door. It just keeps the honest people out. But now they're going with the cameras, and the alarm is now the add-on piece.
Exactly. I was going to say, you really are kind of replicating the same thing, but why have less with just an alarm when the camera can really do it all for you. Now, again, that's not to say that there aren't a lot of people who have these systems existing or looking for different types of inputs and triggers for those alarms. Access control is a big one there. And as you go in, it is important to define, what is triggering the alarm? When does it get triggered? When does it get sent to a monitoring center? Do we have video coverage that gives an operator the context they need to take appropriate action? And then making sure that you have that footage available. So you can also send footage from multiple cameras or grab the pre-alarm footage from multiple cameras, depending on the view, depending on the situation. It is impossible to prepare for every scenario, but especially the most common ones. And providing operators with a map, especially of larger sites, so that they can navigate through those pretty quickly. And making sure that they do have tools available like a speaker, like a siren or strobe, to deter that. I think with any of these services, it is important to consider what the customer defines as suspicious activity. When do you call police? When do you take certain escalation paths? And if you do have somebody on the site, how do you know if they're a good guy or a bad guy? So trying to be as black and white as possible so that, operators are given the right information that they need to take the right path and the right action. And then, I'll let Julian touch on it a little bit more in his session later or in the demo later, some ways that, you can reduce false alarms and false positives. And that can also be some process-driven things, whether in terms of the false positives, making sure that if there are authorized individuals, they call in, or maybe they disarm the system. So you don't have operators just responding to alarms from people who are supposed to be there. Another simple solution that can add a lot of complexity actually is virtual guard tours or remote patrols. And these are proactively scheduled. We do have a new solution as well that can automate some of this, but really we've got the live video stream that comes from Speco, and it is a good alternative, especially if there's a high activity site. If it is open during business hours, for retail sites, you may be looking for shoplifting, financial institutions, making sure that the person is safe, as well as like hospitality. So, the night clerk, making sure that they are safe. Again, it's a good proactive solution, alternative for more of the reactive things. And, they can also listen into the audio, make sure there isn't a scenario that's going on. But of course, it allows a bit more subjectivity. It is impossible, as great as AI is, it is impossible to predict every possible thing and have an analytic that can do that one thing. But it is important, like I mentioned, to define clear SOPs for what that operator is looking for, because there is an unlimited number of scenarios that they could be viewing when they pull up those cameras. As you are, considering how to price this, considering how to sell this to a customer, take into account how many cameras that operator is looking at. Consider the complexity of the scene and that SOP, anything that they may be documenting. It's also good looking in construction sites while they're active for proper PPE. So we have seen that, and that is something that we do see more analytics in as well. And also bear in mind, I'm sure my monitoring friends out there, monitoring center friends, I should say, know this all too well. It is a moment in time type of service. So that operator is only viewing the cameras during that patrol. Things happen outside of those times, and it has to happen during that time. So just some things to bear in mind. Next, we have remote access, and I kind of separated this into two. There's kind of the standard side, and then there's the more advanced concierge types of services. But with entry management and remote access, you're managing access to some sort of restricted area, and you need to make sure there is a barrier in place. That relay control is where this comes in, as well as the two-way audio. So being able to have a process, Julian, you come up to a door, you're looking to get in, and I respond to that and I, say, oh, yes, you are on the list, or let me make a phone call to make sure that you are somebody um, that is authorized to get access to this site. And you can document key pieces of information. So I can take your name, maybe there's a PIN, maybe I look at your license and I have you hold that up. But there are a lot of different possibilities here for what an operator can do. You do want to consider the user experience, and you also want to consider the operator experience. How much time are they taking to manage these different events? Because the pricing can vary when it comes to that. And I always say prepare for the worst case. So in the event that there is any sort of equipment failure, we'll touch on that a little bit as well. But if the audio isn't functional and I can't communicate to that person, do I have an alternate path? Do I have some sort of escalation that I can take? And what is that? So elevating that slightly is this virtual concierge. We also hear it as virtual doorman or remote receptionist. And usually there's some sort of visitor management software that is a component to this. And again, that process is important. You can see more around like the package, issuing permits or, a badge, that type of access. So there's a lot more to it, but it is a very elevated service with a much higher price point. But it does allow a lot of people to really replace a concierge or a receptionist in certain locations or certain times. So last up is the supplemental services. These are kind of in tandem. So if there is some sort of failure of the equipment, power goes out, internet goes down, we can receive alerts. Speco can send us individually for a specific camera if that goes offline. And it's just, how do you resolve these? What is the escalation path? Creating service tickets, things of that nature. Duration of times for a camera to be out of commission. As you're setting maybe SLAs with a customer for uptime, that's something to take note of. And then any known issues. So an operator doesn't escalate the same thing multiple times. That never looks great, but it is nice to be able to alert your customer before they're aware of a situation to say, hey, we noticed this, and we've already got somebody who's scheduled to resolve this issue. When it comes to things like power and internet, if there's backups in place, great. But defining the responsible party for who manages that, who's responsible for it. And of course, if there is maybe an extended downtime, is there an impact on billing? Those are things, again, to just take into consideration as you're pricing out these services and setting customer expectations. And then lastly, forensic review. So in the event of some sort of incident, going back, reviewing the footage that happened, and establishing that timeline. A lot of times it's going to be somebody like a supervisor who may be documenting certain things that took place. They'll probably pull some video clips. They may take some still images to really package that up and provide a report to the requesting party. And that could be for the customer, as we talked about, some benefits, liability claims, or it could be for police. So that's kind of the full gamut here. And just, to reiterate this, there's the different routes, whether you're going to provide it yourself, you've got a lot of control and ownership over the service. But from the third party standpoint, they've really established what their service menu is. They've established how they manage their standard operating procedures. They probably have specific documentation that they're expecting from you. And there's kind of a defined responsibility for all of these different service variables, including the service and maintenance. And they probably have an understanding of the price of each of these different services. And a lot of them are going to have their own special sauce in how they communicate with customers, on how they manage some of the false alarms, as well as the training and the level of service that the operators provide. So with that, I will hand it over to you, Julian, and we will kind of get to see a sneak peek into Speco.
Thank you, Erin. Yeah.
And let me stop sharing.
So I'm gonna share my screen. I might have to ask the organizer if they can make me a presenter. It's not letting me present. Not sure, Erin, if that's you or Abigail. There we go. Got it now.
There we go.
Thank you. That was quick.
I want to make sure I don't excuse you from the meeting again.
Please don't. There we go. Alrighty. And now you're seeing my screen, correct? I just always like to double check.
Yep. Intelligent analytics.
Great. So intelligent analytics. We can go over how easy it is to set up. I mean, we set up analytics. If you use Speco, you know the simplicity of it. But what I want to show here is how do I use analytics? It is very simple, and we try to make it as simple as possible because as dealers, as integrators, we are professionals. We know how to do it day in and day out, but your customers, the one that actually buy the equipment, might not necessarily know how to use it. So we try to make it as simple as possible that the end user can figure it out. In this example, we're looking at any person that came in today, and then we just select any camera that we want to see, and we click search. So show me any person that walked in, and the images will start auto-populating. It looks like there's this gentleman here that came in today. So we can easily search not only for when there was motion, but when there's a person. So that is a basic functionality of AI. Now, where does Immix come in? Imagine you have this set up and nobody's supposed to be there at nighttime. Somebody comes in and you might get the alert, but if you're sleeping or your customer is asleep, they are not necessarily paying attention. Phone is do not disturb. Person came in and walked out with whatever they came in to grab. Now, if you had the monitoring piece of it, now the monitoring station is gonna get that alert. It's gonna be able to identify, is this maybe just a false alarm, or is this actually somebody that's dressed like possibly a suspect? Perhaps I should dispatch. Maybe I should send the police. But now, instead of the guy walking out with it, we can actually dispatch police and ideally, hopefully, catch them. But what I'm showing here is how easy it was. And same thing to search for license plates, search for people, search for vehicles. Another great example is this picture right here. If you look at it, just ask yourself, you don't have to answer this, but this is an instance where there's a building, looks like Aramark, they do some kind of food distribution. Somebody comes in and not necessarily walk in the building. Maybe they're stealing catalytic converters. That's a big topic nowadays. Maybe they're stealing tools out of a van. Without entering the building, we're not going to trip an alarm. They came in, went, and we had no idea. Maybe we'll catch them on the video, perhaps. But what if we had that AI piece tagged along with Immix, where with two-way audio, they can identify this is potentially somebody doing something bad, see them, and with two-way audio, let them know that they're being watched and police are on their way. Criminals are very likely to just go away and never come back. And that's what we want. Seeing the crime happen, sure, it's good, we got it, but actually preventing it. That's where technology is leading us now. And I want to share this video here on using analytics and how we are almost hopefully caught somebody, or the police did, where if you see on your screen, if you see this truck coming in, the two cars behind were hit. She mentioned analytics. You can't predict everything. We can't know that this car is gonna get hit, but we see the truck backing up. It hit the vehicles. You saw the white vehicle move, and then, as a bad guy, they left. They fled the scene. So now what do we have? We have two very unhappy customers that were on the parking lot. Truck hit him. We got it. But what do we do with them? How are we going to catch them? With license plate. That's another analytic. So now,
I will say, Julian, seeing the end of the clip and then back to the beginning, you can see how much that one car moved.
Yep. Yeah, and that's literally the video we got.
A lot of damage.
We can't predict that to put a camera there, but with this camera, we were able to catch him. So you see now one car on top of another. two very upset customers that were visiting the location. Police were called. How do we find them? With license plates. So simply by searching, kind of like I did earlier, show me every person that came in my lobby, show me every license plate that drove out my exit. And here we got the truck. We located exactly within 2 minutes of search span every license plate that left. And I had to block it because it is an ongoing police investigation. But our camera got the license plate, put it into text, and we were able to give this to the police. Now we can easily search for that vehicle, and hopefully they find them, and insurance might get involved and pay the people that were parked there that had it wasn't their fault. Somebody that maybe is new to driving a truck hit him, but the thing is they fled, and we caught him very easily. And it's all thanks to the use of analytics. So there's multiple ways on how we can use it, but this is just one example. If you look at the date and time on the bottom of the screen, it happened less than 2 hours, or well, sorry, a few hours ago at 10 a.m. Eastern time today. So hopefully later on this week they'll catch them. So I just wanted to share that on using analytics to your advantage. A lot of customers we notice don't use them. Perhaps they don't know how to install them. We're here to help. Maybe they don't know that it's available. It is, or maybe they're afraid of the cost, which we addressed earlier. There's no licensing fees. And if you want to tack on a partnership with Immix for that two-way audio so you can dispatch and reduce false alarms, there's no other hardware needed. So why not take advantage of this and separate yourself from your competitor? When you offer this and your competitor doesn't, you're going to look great. This is what people want. They just don't want a video camera to view. They want actually their camera working for them. A security guard that doesn't sleep, doesn't call out sick.
Yeah, and it does a lot of double duty. I think this is a really good example of, some of those more advanced services where it's, you can use this to do things during the daytime, that forensic review, package things together. And there's a lot of things that I would recommend, people look at the different event types that we have. There's a full list. Check out the support page that we have in our support portal for Speco. But, a lot of what you had, the strange plate recognition, loitering, there's sensor alarms that we can receive, duress. There's just a ton of different types of events that analytics can help create where, even during the daytime, even during active hours, there are things that people care about. And I think it's really just making sure that you're aligned with your customers on what their needs are and doing, a really good risk assessment and being close with them to be able to provide kind of a solution that hits all of their main needs.
Yeah, and like you said, there's no two applications that are the same. Some restaurants might be concerned with internal theft. Some might be concerned with external people using their dumpster. The key here is to ask the questions. What's the issue? And then how we can help you solve it.
Definitely. So in closing, we'll get into the Q&A in just a minute here. We've got one more poll. I just want to do this first. Quick highlight of some of the benefits. I promise I'm not going to read this off to anybody. I'll let you guys read it yourselves, but whether it's the end user and what their needs are, giving them the peace of mind, giving them a solution that is flexible, that can adapt to their needs. Whether you're the dealer and you're trying to find some of those different revenue streams or opportunities where you could do more for your customer, it's really creating another touch point, another opportunity for you with the end user. And then with the monitoring center, having a feature-rich integration that both of us are updating frequently, having a focus of attention, so it's not just motion, and you have a lot of specific types of events that your operators can respond to, really does allow you to provide more of these advanced services and not just, a simple video verification. There's a ton of business out there for that. But I think we really wanted to open up the horizons to kind of dream a little bit bigger and think of some of the ways that you could combine the technology to do more. So with that, can we launch the last poll? And we just want to understand some of your needs a little bit as the audience and see what support or resources would be the most helpful for you guys. All right, technical, intros, case studies, some sales training. It's good that we don't see marketing collateral. I guess we're doing a pretty good job there. All right, it looks like technical education is taking the lead there. So perfect, we can go ahead and close that and then get over to the Q&A. All right, so got a couple of questions here. Somebody said about the materials section. Okay, so we've got somebody who said one of the other vertical markets that they see as a fast growing vertical was the transportation or auction storage US wide. Yeah, I do see a lot of that too. Julian, I'm sure you do car dealerships and more of the auction.
Yeah, we're actually doing a nationwide car dealership with two-way audio for that very reason. Big, big.
They're a high target, that's for sure.
Mhm.
Let's see. Somebody asked, is a static IP required for the customer's site or NVR for integration to Immix at the central station? Taking a look.
So with Speco, we don't need a static IP. We use P2P networking, so we do not need to view video remotely. And I'm pretty sure you don't need one, but Erin, if your technical team can confirm that, I'd like to say
Yeah, I'll
no.
get to confirm. I don't believe so. We do have, yeah, P2P. It supports that.
Okay, yeah, if you support P2P, then yeah, it could be done with our P2P because we're fully integrated and it don't need to port forward, no need to have a static IP set.
Analytics performance, outdoor versus indoor images. Julian, I'll let you take
Yeah.
that one.
So our analytics, our accuracy rate is in the mid 90, so 95% accuracy rate, which is extremely high. Outdoor, indoor performance, it really depends more on how the camera placement is. And a great example is that license plate picture I showed you. It is outdoor, however, placement is key. If the camera can't see a license plate, it's not going to catch it. If you can't see a person, it's not going to catch it pretty well. So I'll say it's more about placement than indoor or outdoor. If you and it depends on what you want to see. So if you want to protect the dumpster so people don't come in, or if they're using it, have a camera that can do two-way audio, placing the camera properly, adjusting the zoom settings so it's viewing exactly what you want to protect, and then the speaker close enough that they're going to be able to do the two-way audio talk.
Yeah, certainly more variables to consider in outdoor scenarios, but yeah, to your point, I think it's really about.
Yeah. But the accuracy rate is extremely high. It's in the 90%.
All right. We've got somebody asking about integrating an IP speaker onto the system. We do have an OnVIF integration that Speco's speakers work with, and that's something that we have validated as functional.
Yeah. So if you are not aware, Speco, we do offer IP speakers, either a horn style, a ceiling type style, or if there are already existing analog speakers, we have a little module where you can convert it into an IP speaker and now use it.
I don't see any other questions coming in. Anything else? If not, we can go ahead and conclude. If there are any other questions that come up afterwards, feel free to reach out to either of our teams. You've got the contact here. I'm happy to be a resource. I might not be the most technical, but I'm happy to connect you with somebody from our team if that is the case. Likewise for Julian, I'm sure. Julian, anything else before we wrap up?
No, no, please, any other questions, just send them over, please. I've been on these calls and I always get the question after we hang up. So please email us, don't be shy. You're the technical person here, Erin, so I'll rely on you for that stuff.
Absolutely. No, wonderful. Thank you, Julian, for stepping in and going through that demo. It was great to have some really great live footage from something that just occurred. Hate that that happened for those folks, but it is kind of a good example for us to be able to see. And thank you, everybody, for attending and our moderators. Appreciate the time, and we will be sending out the recording here in the next day or two.
Thank you all. Take care.